integrated into the others. So that requires a collaboration in production. The health impact assessment is a very specialized study that looks at the potential for long-term public health effects as a result of the project. And typically, an HIA, or health impact assessment, is done for large projects like transcontinental pipelines and that sort of thing. We're doing it because we've been asked to do it, and we thought it would be a good idea. The cost-benefit study is also complex. It will look at potential revenues. It'll look at the revenue stream, and so therefore it will estimate the production of oil and gas from this particular project. It will look at how that revenue divvies up into upland areas and the tidewater areas. It'll look at the revenue to the school district as well as the city. It'll look at costs, including costs just to manage the project if it's approved. It'll look at indirect costs, which would include potential effects on real estate values and also tourism. It'll look at management costs if the fire department, for example, needs to upgrade their facilities or their manpower. It'll look at that sort of cost. It'll also look at the interaction of costs and revenues over the long term to see if we have any sort of fluctuations that you'd want to see in terms of like when the costs come and when the revenue comes. The cost-benefit study will be designed to look at scenarios under a yes vote or a no vote. So we'll be looking at scenarios of paying down different debts that might accrue. All three studies, these three studies I've just described, are meaningless without the public. And so this again is challenging to get the public engaged, not just as audience, but as participant in the scoping process, in the process when these draft reports are released. We would like their interaction so they understand what the products are and what they're telling the public. And finally, we want to have an exchange of ideas before these products are finalized. So the challenge here is to keep the public engaged, to get them engaged, and to keep their interest, and to make them feel that these reports belong to them, because that's, in fact, the purpose.
Thank you very much. My colleagues may have some questions for you here.
I do, Mayor, if I can. Just a very quick one. Because I want to follow up on the concept of user-friendly and the way you're approaching this, and maybe part of the reason why you're doing that. And I wonder if you can answer, who is the interested party in this project that makes it different than any other environmental impact report you've ever worked on?
It's the public. It's the public. It's the
So it's not a body of city council members. It's not a board of supervisors. It's not. It is, the process is unique as you described it to me, and I think it's worth repeating. It's unique in that this report truly is for the public. They're the interested party in this, correct?
That's correct. That's correct. And in fact, that relationship, the fact that the public is the decision maker, shifts the whole dynamic here, where instead of being audience and kind of indirect critic of the document that then comes to City Council to see what City Council does with the project, the public receives the document and accepts that information and needs that information. And we're hoping that the public does all of that the public is engaged and uses these documents.
And what are some of the, because you've been through this many times, and what are some of the pitfalls in terms of process, in terms of this concept of engagement that you see that things that we potentially fall into, in terms of a pattern of sort of people sort of presenting this complaint and that complaint as opposed to creating this sense of dialogue?
I think two things. Typically when I run a scoping meeting, one of the things I make clear to the public is that the purpose of the scoping meeting is to receive input on the EIR. In other words, we're asking them, what do you want to see in the EIR? And typically what we get are comments on the project.